So Alicia, are you also part of the CCI Ambassador Program?
So I'm actually staff at CCEI.
Okay, well, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Yeah, I run our venture programming.
You have a big pitch event coming up, right?
We just had it on Monday, actually.
Okay.
So that is thankfully over.
As someone who helps plan events for a living, I know how stressful they are.
Yeah. It went really well, but it was a lot.
Glad to hear it went well.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us for tonight's Timely Topics. My name is Michaela Hartle, a program assistant at the Connecticut Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. Tonight, we are joined by Shannon Malkin Daniels to discuss how grit turns into growth. Shannon, the floor is yours.
Thank you. All right, well, before we get started today, just a little about myself. I'm not going to go into too much detail because you're going to hear a lot of my story today, but I'm the founder and CEO of Incaptive, which is a platform for virtual, hybrid, and in-person events, and we focus on audience engagement and conversion, or getting people to complete that call to action. I'm also a public speaking, communication, and confidence coach and a TEDx speaker, and a straight up communication nerd. My master's is in interpersonal communication, and I love all things communication, and that's what led me down this road to entrepreneurship. And before I really get started today, I want to do a quick poll with you. By a show of hands, how many of you in here are entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs? All right, we've got some. All right, good to see. And then how many of you have heard the story, The Little Engine That Could? That childhood story we're all familiar with. All right, good. Well, I'm just going to give us a quick refresher on this story. So the basic premise of the story is that there's a train, an engine, that's carrying toys for food, or carrying toys and food for kids, that abruptly just stops on the tracks. It breaks down and it can't go up the mountain and get to its destination to make this important delivery. So all the toys come to life and they offload the train, and they're trying to figure out what's next. As they're doing so, multiple engines come by. The first three are not very helpful. So as the first engine comes by, the toys ask that engine, "Oh, can you help us? Can you help pull our train over the mountain so we can get there to deliver these toys and food to the kids?" And the first train says, "Oh, no, I'm too good for you. I'm too good for that. You're beneath me." Second train comes along, similar situation, nice, fancy new train. They ask for help and it says, "I'm too good for you. You're beneath me. I'm not going to help you." Then a third train comes along, and that third train says, "I'm too old. Yes, I've got a lot of experience. I've been up and down these tracks, but I'm too old. I just can't do that for you. Sorry," takes off. Then this little tiny engine comes across their path. This engine had never been over the mountain before. And in fact, it was really just used to pull train cars into the yard. But that little engine heard the toys' plight and agreed to help. So even though it had never been over the mountain, it believed in itself and it said, "I think I can, I think I can." So it hitched itself to that broken down train and started chugging up the mountain. Everybody say it with me. "I think I can, I think I can, I think I can." So they get to the top of the mountain and finally, success. And that little train knows that it's just downhill from there. It's an easy ride. Everybody's celebrating. And the whole way down, that little train is saying, "I thought I could, I thought I could." So what does this story have to do with entrepreneurship, grit, and growth? Well, first, just like that initial train, you will face breakdowns in the form of obstacles and failures. You can't let them stop you. You will have to learn from that, learn from those failures, and learn to fail forward. Second, you will need to find creative solutions to problems. Solutions are not always going to be what you think they are or come from who you thought they would. For example, it wasn't the two big, strong, fancy new trains that helped the broken down train out, nor was it the older, experienced train. It was a new little train with a fresh perspective and a belief in itself. So the lesson here is to look at all potential options, to think creatively about solutions, and you may get a lot of no's along the way, but that's okay. You have to keep pushing forward to that yes. And then third, just like that broken down train, you're going to need help. That help will come in multiple forms, from mentors, your team, your community at large. It's great to tap the entrepreneurial community, your community here at CCEI. You got to rely on your support system because they're really there to help you. Now, I want to take a minute to think about grit and growth in the context of that little train. So first with grit. That train, its grit was, I think I can, I think I can. It was digging in and it's teaching us to believe in ourselves, to persevere, to keep pushing up the mountain when the going gets tough, and to not be afraid of doing something that we've never done before or never thought possible. Next, what that little engine teaches us about growth, my slides are doing something weird here, is that little engine took on more cars, more cargo, tackled new challenges. And as a result, it was able to grow in its confidence and its abilities. The bottom line is, to be a successful entrepreneur, you need to be like that little engine and understand that with grit, you can experience tremendous growth. And today I'm going to share a little bit about my story, some things that I've learned, along with some of my failures and some of my wins. And really the goal of me sharing my story with you today is to get you to rethink how you perceive both grit and growth. So before I became an entrepreneur, I followed that typical American roadmap. Go to college, get a job, climb that corporate ladder, get bigger titles and bigger paychecks and newer cars, right? All of those things that we learn growing up is the way to go in this country. And I never even considered entrepreneurship as an option. It wasn't even honestly part of my vocabulary. But as I became increasingly unhappy and unhealthy as a result of my career, I started to look for new options and new opportunities. And I got solidified as a holistic health coach because health and wellness is something I'd always been interested in, and I wanted to help people with that. I also started writing a book about self-care and accomplishing your goals, which I ended up publishing back in 2014. But as I was writing this book, I was struggling with it and it just wasn't coming to me. And I realized it was because I was not taking my own advice. So I decided to take the leap into entrepreneurship. I quit my job to finish my book. And I will never forget when I walked into the CEO's office. I was working at a hospital at the time, running their sales and marketing. When I walked into his office, he asked, "Where are you going next?" And I said, "I'm going to write a book." And he was like, "No, but what are you doing for a job?" "No, I'm just going to write a book." He couldn't believe it. He was just dumbfounded that that's what I was doing. So I quit my job. I worked on my book. And I also started doing a little health coaching here and there. I was dipping my toe in, seeing if that's the career that I wanted and how I wanted to be an entrepreneur. At the same time, I was also leveraging my communication skills and teaching public speaking and communication courses at Iona College and Columbia University. And after about a year of doing that, of health coaching and all that, I realized that the health coaching piece just wasn't for me. I really loved the communication piece, and I really loved health and wellness and helping people, but I realized it wasn't what I wanted to do for a career. Then an interesting thing kind of happened, manifested. Since I was teaching public speaking and communication courses and hanging out in what used to be the Stanford Innovation Center, so a co-working community, other entrepreneurs started asking me for help with their presentations and their pitches. And I realized as I was helping them do all of this, that that was my happy place. That's where I wanted to be. So I started doing public speaking and communication coaching. And 7 years later, I am still doing that. I love helping people, and this gives me the opportunity to do that by helping them unlock their potential, build confidence, and overcome that fear and anxiety so many people have around public speaking, and help them to share their ideas and stories with the world. So I didn't get to this place where I am today in a straight line or even straight up a set of stairs. It was a windy road of experiences that led me to developing and captive. And it was over that course of corporate and teaching and coaching that I kept seeing the same problems arising with presentations and events, specifically in the in-person space, over and over. First of all, your presenter is talking at the audience, right? And you're losing your audience to their devices in about 7 to 10 minutes. And on top of that, you can't really accurately measure their engagement. And then opportunity was walking out the door with the audience. So if you have a call to action at the end, like buy my book or schedule an appointment with me, people are excited to do that when they're there in the moment. But as soon as they walk out the door, life happens, distractions happen. And it's not that they're not interested anymore, it's just that they have other things competing. So one day when I was coaching one of my public speaking clients, she was asking me about all these typical technology related questions with presentations, as well as how to gauge interest and to get them to convert and all of that. And so I kind of had this epiphany. And I said, with all the technology that's out there, there's got to be a better way. So I did what we all do these days when we're looking for answers. What do you do when you're looking for answers? Someone shout it out.
Look on the internet.
Right, I Googled it. So I went to Google and I couldn't find a solution that really solved all the problems. So I sat down one day and I drew out my perfect solution. I never had any intention of doing anything with it, but I just started sharing it with people, clients and colleagues and stuff. And I kept hearing, when can I sign up? And my answer was, you can't sign up, it's a drawing on a piece of paper. And they're like, great, so when are you gonna make it so I can sign up? And I heard that so much that I decided to build it. But there was one small problem. I had absolutely no clue what I was doing. It's one thing to be a coach or a consultant. It's another thing to build an entire tech company, especially when you're not a technologist. So I reached out to my community, my entrepreneurial community, asked for help and got advisors. And that is how Encaptive was born. So now not only do I get the opportunity to teach people how to be more effective speakers, I also get to use this technology to help them improve and measure their engagement and get better and accomplish their goals. So when I was building Encaptive, I spent the first 2 years building a team, doing market research, building the tech, and beta testing it. And we were finally ready to roll this technology solution out in 2020. We were seeing great results. And we booked a 15,000 person conference at the Connecticut Center in New York City for our big launch in March of 2022. Anybody have any guesses of what happened? March of 2022 or 2020, sorry, not 2022. March of 2020, what happened? COVID happened. Yep. So in-person events were just canceled. Javits turned into a hospital, and we had spent 2 years building and testing something for in-person events. So the obvious issue is we were crushed from that perspective, but there was another problem. We were moving into due diligence with who would be our lead investor, and they pulled out, and all the subsequent investors gone with them. So we lost our investment opportunities. At that point, I could have hung it up, hit pause, given up. Nope. I decided to take a lesson from that stalled engine and channel the little engine that could. So I asked for help. I believed in myself and my product and said, I think I can, and worked with my team. So we pivoted. We went back to the drawing board, and it was like startup 2.0. We did new market research. We built an expanded product line that now hosts virtual and hybrid events, and it's the full spectrum of bringing a conference online. And we got some early traction. We had some pre-sold MVPs of our virtual events platform. And then we did about another year of beta with some paying customers, where it's trial, error, iteration, the typical beta period. And then we were finally ready for our big go-to-market launch in late 2021. Wait a minute, another obstacle, another stalled train on the track. The video streaming service that we were using that powered the streaming portion of our product decided to shut down and gave us 1 week's notice. It had taken us, mind you, months and months and months to get this implemented into our platform. So we have 1 week to figure out a solution, and we have to implement a new streaming service and in the meantime, save all of our existing customers with creative workarounds, which we managed to do, thankfully. And we finally got the video streaming service in, bugs out, tested, the whole 9 yards, operational a few months ago, about the middle of this year. So now we're really starting to sell our product, and our customers love us, and we're focused on growth in the terms that most startups focus on it, which is traction in the form of customers and revenue. So why do I share this story? Well, being an entrepreneur is not a straight path. It's a windy path. You're going to get thrown a lot of curveballs. It's also a bit like being one of these punching clowns where you get knocked down and you got to get back up and knock down and get back up, right? You have to be able to take those hits and get up. You're going to hear a lot of no's. You're going to experience a lot of failure. It's also a roller coaster of emotions. You're going to have these really high highs and these really low lows, and that's on a day-to-day basis. You might experience both in the same exact day. You have to be able to ride that wave. And it takes determination, perseverance, and grit to be able to do that. Entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. That's something I always say. And as you've heard, I've taken a lot of hits, but I believe in what we're building. I believe that we can build responsible communication tools, ones that connect humans in a real way, that aren't just a snapshot or a quick post, but tools that enable people to really come together, build community and relationships, and accomplish their goals. And as an entrepreneur, you must believe in yourself. Just like that little engine believed in itself, you have to believe in yourself, because if you don't, nobody else will. And if you don't, you're not going to be able to muster the grit to keep going through those really tough times. But the good news is, if you do believe in yourself and you have the grit and determination to keep going, you can turn that grit into growth. Now, it's important to note that that growth may not be in the way you think. Most think of growth in the terms of customers and revenue and IPOs and exits, especially in the startup realm. But there are other growth factors to consider and value if you're on the path of entrepreneurship. Think about it this way. About 90% of startups fail. 10% of those are in the first year, another 70% in years 2 to 5, and the remainder after that. So that growth that you're trying to experience may not come in the form of your startup succeeding. But the good news is it will come in different forms, such as personal growth, new business ideas, experience under your belt, knowledge. It'll open the door to new opportunities and so much more. So I want to challenge you to rethink what growth and success mean to you. For example, even though my tech startup isn't profitable yet because of all the hits we've taken, I have been approached twice since July of this year, people trying to recruit me into CEO roles at other organizations. We've also been sought out by third parties interested in buying the organization, buying in captive. I've really expanded my community and my network, my knowledge base. I've built partnerships with other companies and experts in the field. I've really learned a lot about starting and running a business and what it takes. And basically, it's like getting an MBA through experience. And I've managed to be able to elevate my personal profile, my followers, my credibility. The list goes on and on and on. And as a result of all of those things, my public speaking business is doing better than it ever was. I'm charging 5 times what I did when I first started out. And I don't even do any marketing anymore. It's all referral based, or people just seeing me out talking and doing things because I'm asked to speak regularly at events. I've also solidified my personal brand as an audience engagement expert. So I consider that very positive growth. And that's why I'm saying switch your perspective and rethink how you look at growth. And the key here is I wouldn't have gotten to that growth without grit and perseverance. So with the right perspective, grit can lead to growth in more ways than you ever thought possible. So that's enough about me at this point in time. I want to talk to all of you. I want to hear from all of you. At the beginning, I asked how many are entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs. I know we have some in here. I know some of you work with entrepreneurs, but regardless of whether you're an entrepreneur, we all have obstacles we face in our life. So I want to hear your stories of grit and growth. What have you experienced? And I want to answer any questions you have. So I'm going to open the floor up.
Please feel free to unmute, or you can also add any comments in the chat.
I guess I'll go. So prior to, I joined CCEI about a year and a half ago. And prior to being at CCEI, I ran my own food and travel blog full time for about 7 years. It was called CT Eats Out. I still have it. I'm still trying to figure out if I want to go back to it, what I want to do. But I started it from scratch just as a passion project one day, and built it up over the years to a brand that led to me living off of it, led to me being on Gordon Ramsay's TV show, led to me speaking at conferences, and writing for magazines. It, just like you kind of said, you have to re-establish what you think growth is, and it led to so many different opportunities that I had to kind of look at growth as like a horizontal, instead of just the business itself growing vertically. So that's kind of my shortened version.
And so what are you doing with it now? I know you said you're trying to figure out what's next.
Yeah. So I kind of hit kind of like you did with COVID. It was a food and travel blog writing about restaurants in Connecticut and travel opportunities, and COVID hit and suddenly everything got switched upside down. And I kind of went into just trying to help all of the restaurants and went into that mode because they were the ones that were sponsoring me and advertising with me. And if they didn't exist, then I wouldn't have anything. So I worked really hard for free, basically, for like 6 months. And then it was kind of apparent that COVID wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. And I just kind of simultaneously reached a point of burnout where I like couldn't even look at my accounts anymore without like feeling anxiety. So I kind of just put it to the side, decided I was going to take a break from it, and see what else was out there. And that's when I found the job at CCEI, where I work on our marketing and our venture program. So I work with entrepreneurs every day, and I still get to kind of experience entrepreneurship without actually having to do it myself. But yeah, I'm just trying to figure out if it's something I want to pick back up or if I want to look to sell at this point.
Yeah, and there's always those inflection points, right? I think every entrepreneur experiences that at some point in time throughout their journey and has to make a decision on how to proceed. So thank you for sharing your story with us. Appreciate that. Does anybody else have any stories they want to share? It doesn't have to be about entrepreneurship. It can be about some other challenge you faced and how you've dug in with some grit and what you learned from that, how it helped you grow.
Shannon, I actually have a question for you.
Sure.
During your journey, did you ever question your decisions or doubt yourself? Like, why did I ever leave that stable job at the hospital? And how did you move past those doubts?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that happens all the time, right? The way I move past it is believing in what I'm doing. And how I talked about that roller coaster of really high highs and really low lows. It always seems like that really high high comes along right at the right moment when there's a lot of doubt creeping in. And then I've also relied on my community and my network. I have a lot of great friends I've made through this entrepreneurial journey, other entrepreneurs or people just, they may not be entrepreneurs, people in a professional space who are really supportive, advisors. And so when I get there, I reach out and I ask for help. And, you also have to know when to make a go, no go decision, because there are certain points where you don't want to just keep losing. I have a friend that's an entrepreneur and he pushed it too far. He was making millions, and then the market changed, and instead of changing with it, he just kept pressing forward and lost the millions and then some. So you also have to really rely on advisors and mentors to know, like, when is that inflection point. But for me, it's always looking at, what am I doing? What is the opportunity? Are we making progress? Are we moving in the right direction? I firmly believe in, yes, you have your big lofty goals of what you want to achieve, but research shows us that if we just shoot for those big lofty goals, there's an 80% plus failure rate. But if we break those goals down into smaller steps and milestones and smaller goals, and we watch that progress and track that progress and see that you're moving forward, for me, that's really helpful to know that I'm hitting milestones, that I'm completing some of those things that are leading towards that bigger goal. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that was great. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I know we're coming to the end. It's pretty close to 4:30 now. So I'm going to let everyone know that this recording will be up on the CCEI website within the next week. So if you didn't get a chance to ask your question, or you want to rewatch this or share with your network, please feel free to visit the website. And then you can also connect with Shannon via LinkedIn, and I'm sure that she'll be able to answer any of the questions you have after watching the video. As a quick update, we do have our next timely topics, which will be celebrating Women's Entrepreneurship Week. So this panel will be talking about how you can use self-awareness as a strength in your entrepreneurial journey. This will be held on Monday, October 17th at 12 o'clock. And Shannon, I want to thank you for the time you took to be with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great night, everyone.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you,
Have
Shannon.
a good one.